Hello, everybody, and you're very welcome here today to another Causeway event and the first in our Digitising the Construction Sector series of events this year. I'm Aoife O'Sullivan, I'm Causeway's Events and Communications Manager. You're very welcome here today. This series of events has been kindly sponsored by Invest Northern Ireland, and it's designed to support leaders and professionals from throughout the construction sector to help and support you on your complete digital journey. You will hear today from experts in the sector, and you will also have the opportunity for interactive networking to have discussions on the challenges of and your experiences of digital transformation. First, I'm going to give you some very quick housekeeping. I'm going to advise you that today's event is being recorded, keeping out missing the breakout room sessions, but the main talks will be recorded and we will share these with you after the event, and these will also be publicised on our Causeway communications channels. I'd also like to advise you that you're on mute for the beginning of today's events while we're giving some introductory talks, but this event will be very interactive. We're going to be running polls and we want you to get involved in the discussion. So throughout this event, please leave comments in the chat box and get engaged. I'd also like to advise today's event is being hosted by Eugene Mullen, one of our Causeway Network founders and founding director of Smith Scott Mullen Architects. We also have a talk here today from series sponsor Nick Tuberville of Invest Northern Ireland, and our key guest speakers are Sean Dennison of GS1 Ireland, Patrick Buckley of EPS Water, and Mark McKeown of FK Lowry. In addition to Nick and Eugene giving some talks today, I would like to thank other contributors of today's events, our valued Causeway members and partners. So we have John Hunt of Enterprise Ireland, Saffron Grant and Chris Grant of Digital Construction Skills, George Harold of Integrated Facility Solutions, and Linda Scott of Coatlan. They will be helping facilitate breakout room discussions in this series of events, and they've been crucial in the planning of this series of events to make sure we're representing views across the digital construction sector. I'm aware we do have here today a good mix of people from across Scotland, Ireland and Northern Ireland, some who are Causeway members, some who are not. Regardless, you're all very welcome today. We're an inclusive organisation. To tell you a bit more about Causeway, I am now going to pass you over to one of today's key hosts, Eugene Mullen. As I mentioned earlier, he's one of the founding members of Causeway Network, which was founded in 2016 at Edinburgh Castle, but he is also by day an architect and urban designer with his own firm in Edinburgh, Smith Scott Mullen Architects. Eugene is originally from Northern Ireland, and he was also recently appointed Belfast International Homecoming Ambassador for the work he has done on behalf of Causeway in connecting Northern Irish businesses with professionals with professionals of our growing network. Over to you, Eugene.
Thank you very much, Aoife, and welcome to everyone, all our Causeway members, and to anyone who's new to Causeway. Our core focus has been to protect, and is to protect and enhance the trading relationship between Scotland and Ireland and Northern Ireland, no matter what the political and economic environment, and let's face it, there's been quite a lot of shifting around in both of those fronts. And it's about providing an informal business platform that allows business to connect, communicate and collaborate. And it is great that on this online world we are attracting involvement from people throughout Ireland, Northern Ireland and Scotland, and even in the sort of meet-up session beforehand, there seems to be people from throughout all of those areas, which is absolutely great. Key to this has been working with Invest NI and Enterprise Ireland, and that conversation has established this sort of demand for digitising the construction sector as a series of events hosted by Causeway. So we held an event in December, and really that was establishing a level of interest. It was also about establishing what sort of content would be of interest to people. And the series of events that have now been set up is very much a response to that. So the first one, what it takes to make a successful digital transformation. So let's hope that our digital transformation is a little bit more considered than our younger members of staff or our teenagers grabbing our phone and saying, let me do it. So I am looking forward to learning quite a lot in this process, and we are delighted that this series of events is being sponsored by Invest NI. I'll just pass you over to Nick Tuberville to explain more about the series and the specific event format. Thanks, Nick.
Thanks, Eugene. Invest and I are delighted to be sponsoring this series of events. We do hope that all the delegates find these webinars informative and can help you all on your with insight into the task at hand, regardless of where you are on your digital journey. We hope that you can find collaborating partners through the Causeway network and use the Scotland Ireland Business Exchange to your advantage. Today, we will be focusing on digital transformation through a panel discussion with companies that have dealt with digital transformation firsthand and seen the impacts and benefits of it. Future events will explore leadership, implementation, and collaboration. We do hope that when it comes to collaboration, that we might be able to meet in a real environment rather than a virtual one. That said, it is probably quite apt that our transformation event is being held in a virtual format. For those of you that don't know Invest NI, we're the Economic Development Agency for Northern Ireland. While a lot of the focus on what we do can be around export development and creation of new jobs through foreign direct investment, we are also there to support existing companies as they try to grow and modernize their business to remain competitive in an increasingly digital age. Transformation isn't just about buying the newest gadget or gizmo or spending eye-watering amounts of money on new software. It is about understanding how it will change the way we work, how roles will evolve. To give you an example of the support available to our clients, we worked with a company to provide financial support for an R&D program recently. They were fairly mature in terms of their digital journey and had already identified a 10% increase in efficiency through the adoption of digital strategy. They realized that they needed to keep moving and wanted to see if their methods of data capture could be digitized better and go on to deliver yet more efficiency. We worked with them to identify the parameters of the research required, and in the end supported the project financially. There's a 5-minute video on YouTube that documents the digital transformation program at this company, and I'll share that with you in the chat box towards the end of the webinar. That's enough from me for now. All that remains is for me to say a huge thank you to Patrick Buckley, Mark McKeown, and Sean Dennison for agreeing to take part in this event and give up their time, and introduce my collaborative partner from Enterprise Ireland and chair of today's panel discussion, John Hunt.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Aoife, Eugene, and good afternoon, everyone. I don't know if we'll ever get used to presenting to images of ourselves, looking back at ourselves, and may may this come to a swift end. But as Nick mentioned, I work for Enterprise Ireland with a lead investment agency of the Irish government. And if you've come across us in construction over the past 10 years or so, it's most likely will have been connected through our focus on sustainability, on digital technology, or offsite manufacturing in all its forms. So for me, I'm absolutely delighted to moderate today's panel conversation around the theme of what it takes to make a successful digital transformation. And I should start by saying that in my experience, there aren't many that have made a full transformation. Certainly many more who haven't started, but I think the growing majority reside somewhere between the two. And from the outset, I think it's also important to say that digital transformation is not the final destination. It's a journey. Digital is a journey, and for different reasons, we've set off on that journey. For different reasons, we've had challenges in maintaining momentum. And in some cases, we've left the journey where we might have to come back to it. So from the outset, I'd emphasize that really technology is not going to solve all our problems, but there is every chance we're going to solve our problems with technology. And so we begin this afternoon's session with a conversation regarding 3 unconnected digital journeys and experiences which I hope you'll relate to and will energize your own thoughts and your own experiences. And that's enough from me. We have a limited enough time anyway to get through some fantastic journeys. And it's my great pleasure to welcome and to introduce our panel, Patrick, Sean and Mark. And if I can start the introductions perhaps with you, Patrick, perhaps you'd feel free to introduce yourself, introduce EPS and share with us where you consider yourselves on the digital journey.
Thanks, John. Yeah, well, Patrick Buckley is my name. I'm the Managing Director of EPS Group. We're We're a UK and Ireland-based company now, group of companies. We offer water, wastewater treatment and pumping solutions and services right across Ireland and the United Kingdom. And we do a lot of strategic projects, then one-off strategic projects globally, which are, in a lot of the time, are based around the use of our digital technologies for offsite construction and methods. And we've been involved in projects, thankfully, in Philippines, North America, parts of Africa, Middle East. Very interesting project last year with in the Antarctica with the British Geological Institute, which was a really interesting project. As I say, we're 52 years into our journey now in EPS, you know, so well established, but in the context of some of the long family businesses that exist there, fourth, fifth generation, 52 years is a very short time, so a lot more to do. We've over 550 employees now. We added, thankfully, actually in good timing this week, we've added 47 new team members in Scotland just this week. So we as of this week now, we have a presence in Aberdeen, in Edinburgh and Glasgow with an acquisition we're announcing this afternoon. We've 5 focus areas in our business. One is construction. So that's around water and wastewater. We have an asset management business and aftercare and energy optimization business. We have a service repair and maintenance business, pump distribution business, and we have a manufacturing business then, which manufactures in steel, mild steel and stainless steel. A lot of the assemblies and the products that we use on our own projects and for other customers. We have a number of companies within our group. One is in Scotland now since this week, Ferrier Pumps. We have a company in Bangor in the north of Ireland called EPS. We've EPS UK and we've Pedrolo Distribution based in Lichfield, just north of Birmingham. So our customers are wide in terms of homeowners to industry to water and power utilities, the agricultural sector, commercial sector, anyone basically who needs a water or a wastewater solution. I'm very focused really, I suppose, and the question, John, in terms of our digital journey, we're probably 10 years in. A lot to go yet. I would think we're 5 or 6 out of 10. Some of our guys would think we're 10 out of 10 because that's the particular part of the business they're in where we're utilizing digital technologies. It's a huge focus for us, but what I would say, it's particularly, it seems to get faster every year, in particular the last 3 to 4 years. We seem to be making more progress every year, and it's increasing in terms of pace as the years have progressed, in particular over the last 3 or 4 years. You know, and digital transformation for construction for us, it means a lot more in the sense that it's digital for us right across our business, you know, everywhere in our business, not just our construction business. It's also in our manufacturing business. So, you know, our new ERP system in 2017, a variety of technologies, a simple thing like the use of QR codes. You know, this was something that we have got engaged with a couple of years ago, and it has transformed how we share information with ourselves, with our teams, and across, you know, with customers. And then there's a whole suite of technologies that we use that everyone's familiar with within the construction side in terms of the Autodesk suite and the BIM 360 and the various software programs. But a lot of work to do, but I think we're reasonably well established and well positioned. And just the last one to finish, a brilliant team of people who we've just enabled them with tools and technology that they like to play with, and they get involved in interesting projects, and that's what they like, and that's where they develop their capabilities, and that's how we grow and enhance our overall digital capability then as a business. Thanks.
Very good. Thank you, Patrick. And yeah, almost immediately we've come on to the importance of people in the digital transformation process. Absolutely key. And Sean, perhaps we can. Well, perhaps you can tell us a little bit about you, about GS1 and your progress in digital too.
Sure, John, yeah. Well, my name is Sean Dennison. I'm delighted to be here today, and thank you for coming out to listen, as they say. I'm part of the industry engagement team in GS1 Ireland, and my particular focus is on the construction sector. So my background is in originally civil engineering, but spent most of my life in IT. Worked in a broad range of businesses such as food manufacturing and distribution, retail convenience, retail forecourt, and software development for health and human services. So a lot of very digitized businesses, I suppose. So the first question we're often asked in GS1 is GS who? So the name GS1 is not widely known, but our products, if you want to call them that, are fairly ubiquitous. GS1 Ireland is part of a federated global member-owned organisation. We're best known for managing the number banks and the standards used for barcodes. But we have many other standards covering other activities and spanning over 20 different business sectors. Examples include retail, grocery, healthcare, transport and logistics, hardware and DIY, as well as construction. Almost all the barcodes used in retail grocery supply chain are GS1 barcodes, and over 85% of those used by pharmaceutical and medical device manufacturers are GS1 barcodes. So for example, all the barcodes scanned in supermarkets and pharmacies are issued by GS1, and the vaccines currently being distributed and administered are tracked and traced using GS1 barcodes. So in GS1, we talk about identifying, capturing, sharing, and using, assigning an identity to a location or a product or a part, a system, an individual asset, a reusable asset, a logistics unit, and so on. This can be incorporated in linear barcodes or 2D barcodes. Pat mentioned QR codes, so there's a GS1 standard for QR codes, or RFID tags, which we're seeing increasing in the sector. Then we capture the information by scanning the tag either in situ or as it moves through the supply chain. We share the information among trading partners or other stakeholders using electronic data interchange, and then use the data for business processes such as product or material selection, procurement, building handover, soft landings, facilities and business and building management, and repurposing at the end of the building life cycle, which is becoming an increasingly important part of the process. So it all starts with identification. To measure and track, you need to identify. In the case of construction, you need a system that's globally unique, open, interoperable for identification, and that's what the GS1 system provides. So I'm really looking forward to the discussion following and any questions you might have.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Sean. And that move from paper to data, that transfer of information from concept through design, through construction, through to the asset, and through to demolition, is absolutely at the heart of the digital transformation process. And thank you very much for joining us. And if we may, we'll go on to Mark now. And Mark, perhaps you'd like to give us a bit of an introduction, tell us a bit about FK Lowry and your digital path as well.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Aoife and Eamon and Nick. Much appreciated. Firstly, I'm delighted to be here today to be representing FK Lowry Piling. We're a wholly owned subsidiary of the Lagan Specialist Contracting Group. I'm a civil engineer by profession or by trade, and but my role within the business is very much front of house in terms of work winning, business development, and trying to raise the profile of the business and ultimately try and grow the business turnover wise. The type of business we are, we're a 10 to 12 million pound piling business, a specialist piling and ground engineering business. And we operate throughout Ireland, throughout the UK. And it's one of the reasons why I'm absolutely delighted, to take part and to be invited here today, is that, the Ireland, Northern Ireland, Scotland business relationship is quite close to my heart, because it's where I first started out in my career as a young graduate after graduating from University of Ulster. I got a job with Balfour Beatty in Glasgow, where I started out on the piling side of things for that business with a company called Stent. So in that respect, I'm delighted to be here and delighted to be representing my company and talking to industry people from all over Scotland and Ireland. But in terms of our business, so we operate throughout Ireland, the UK. We're not a huge piling business. We're probably a middle tier UK piling business. We're currently we operate about eight rigs at the moment, 8 piling rigs at the moment, in various techniques and disciplines. be it from driven precast piling, CFA piling, rotary board piling, board displacement piling, across a range of sectors, including private residential, energy schemes, civil engineering, infrastructure, health, etc. So right across the board, anywhere where there's typically poor ground conditions, generally there'll be a piling and a ground engineering requirement or solution required there, and that's where we come in. I guess really where are we in terms of our journey? You know, when I was talking to you, John, the day before yesterday, it made me sit back and actually think, you know, where are we as a business in terms of digital transformation? And you know, you hit the nail right in the head earlier on there when you said that this is a journey. It's very much a journey. And Patrick, you also reminded me as well there, just in your introduction, and then followed on to Sean as well, in terms of barcodes and QR codes, which I completely forgot about, but we use daily in terms of health, safety, environmental and quality reporting on construction sites. But as well as that there, like we would use an electronic system for all our plant and equipment, regardless of where it's working around the UK. We can dial into those systems, be it working in London or be it working in Glasgow, Dublin, or indeed Aberdeen at the moment where we're working, to supervise, you know, production, to look at the fleet management side of things. It's a system that embraces smart technology. It optimizes the use of the machinery, the plant and the equipment. And we believe increases the efficiencies of what we do. With regards to QR coding, something as simple as QR coding, we'll regularly put QR codes on our plant and equipment around our site. And then with a smartphone, you can immediately then zap on that QR code, which downloads a pro forma. So that whoever it is, be it the client side or even our own side, we can quite quickly identify and report a positive health and safety element or a negative health and safety element there as well. So yeah, we are using it. We are constantly trying to improve, John. But you're dead right. It is a journey, and we must continue to try and improve what we do, day on day, week on week, year on year.
That's fantastic, Mark. Thank you very much. That gives a really good sense of the context of your view and your perspective on the digitization of construction. So, you know, this isn't, you know, a new topic of conversation, but we hear a lot about digital transformation of design, or we hear a lot from principal contractors. But I think the real value is you know, the people, the specialists, if you like, where there's a design piece, there's a people piece, there's a manufacturing piece, there's a product piece, there's a tracking piece. Really interesting to pull that all together today. And perhaps we can move into the kind of the conversational piece. That I've got some questions that you that I'd like to pose to you. And Patrick, if I can start with you first. I think it's fair to say that you're well progressed in the digitalization of EPS, not just at the project level, as you mentioned in modeling and BIM, but also at your company level with the digitization of your information systems. Starting is tough. You won't remember that now because it was 10 years ago, but sustaining that momentum is arguably tougher. So my question is this: are there any key events or milestones that you'd point to that have really helped to sustain or add momentum to your digital journey?
I think first of all, it's the culture. So look, if you go back 10 years ago, through support from Enterprise Ireland, we got involved in lean and continuous improvement through various initiatives and projects and support. And that helped us to, I suppose, start the journey on a cycle of innovation and continuous improvement. And everywhere you look, digital obviously appeared as an opportunity to make ourselves better. But then obviously on the construction side, we've been very lucky and very fortunate since we got involved in the earlier days of 3D design and, you know, some modelers and getting into scanning sites and digital animation. But I think the momentum bit for us is it's grand having all of the technology and having the wherewithal and the ambition to and, you know, and go on and make the investment. But it's no good to you unless you have the projects to work on to develop your skill sets, and that you have a customer or a client that's willing to engage in new ways of working, because that was a challenge at the start. So we've been very lucky through partnership with MWH Treatment, through our MET joint venture for 6 years, which allowed EPS to get involved with projects that we would never have got involved in the first place, because of where MWH Treatment was positioned as a tier 1 in the UK market. And we were very fortunate to get involved in projects in Scotland, because Scottish Water were very proactive. They were very forward looking in terms of engaging with digital tools for construction, same in Thames Water and Anglian and Severn Trent. So we got involved in some brilliant projects that we learned a lot in. It allowed us to develop, it allowed us to build a team, because now we had interchange between EPS, which is a relatively large construction business in Ireland, but in the UK sense, we're a very small construction business. But we were partnering with one of the key players in the water sector, and they had big team, big resources, lots of projects, and we got interacted with their teams, and then the collaboration started, and all of that evolved, and with some great projects, great learning. And I think the culmination of all of that momentum has been in the last 10 months, where we've been involved in the design through a PSC of a new wastewater treatment plant in Edinburgh at a place called Winchborough, in partnership with ESD, which Galliford Try are partnered with MWH. And effectively the teams from ESD, Galliford Try, MWH Treatment, Scottish Water, Capital Delivery and Operations, and EPS, about 35 people, over 16 weeks, basically designed and costed and has opt a 20 million plus wastewater scheme remotely. There was no airplane, there was no hotel meetings, there was no sandwiches for lunches, there was none of that. This was all done completely remotely. Now, the reason it worked so well was because the vast majority of that team had worked 3 years previous on another project in Inverary. So everyone knew each other. Lots of learnings from that project were brought into the second one. So there's the momentum. And for us, it's about more of those projects. And thankfully, we've been able to bring that learning now back into Ireland. And Irish Water are very, very, very proactive through their various frameworks. So now we're trialing the Common Data Environment for 9 projects. We're actually hosting that ourselves as EPS, which is the first time for us. Up to now, we've always been feeding into that with some of our other partners. So that's another step for us, you know, into 4D scheduling and pulling out your costs and all of that. That's another area where we're getting into again, and hopefully in a year's time or 2 years' time, the momentum from that, it would be just a given. That's just everything we do on every project. It's just a part of how we do it. So that's kind of the momentum bit for us. But really, it's the people we have, the partnerships we created, having live projects to actually practice on, make the mistakes, lose some money, unfortunately, on the first 1 or 2 projects, and clients that were willing to allow us to do it slightly differently and change behaviors. And it wasn't easy, because even with a very proactive client, you still have project managers within that client that doesn't want to change. So it's a learning exercise. And some of the biggest critics 9 years ago are now the biggest advocates within EPS. And it's the same on the client side of things. That's our experience anyway.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And certainly there's a few words that you used in there, and it was partnership, it was behavior, positive behavior, it was collaboration. Now, all of us will have worked on a construction site or a project where there's been adversarial behavior, but I think that the digital tools, that reliance on people, the ability to work as project teams is also one of, you know, the things people like, and that's how we want to work, and we don't want to go back necessarily to the way that things have been managed in the past. So yeah, no, a few learnings and insights there, Patrick. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for sharing those with us. Mark, if I may, I might come on to you with a question that's related, actually. So look, FK Lowry are an organisation that have implemented digital technology successfully too. But is there an area that you or your team that you point to as the most tangible benefit of your digital transformation so far? Is there something you put your hand on and go, we're never going back, because that's the way we do it?
John, the adoption of digital, a way of doing things digitally and electronically is a huge USP. It's a game changer. A lot of my time is spent, going out to be it developers, be it PQSs, be it consultant engineers, be it tier 1 contractors. I suppose to generate inquiries, to generate work, and raise our profile. But I suppose, to the layperson, what we do is simply, we dig holes in the ground and we clean it out, clean the hole out, and we place steel and concrete into the ground. That's in its very simplest forms. But within that, there's a world of parameters that we have to deal with in terms of health and safety, in terms of quality, in terms of geotechnical engineering, in terms of design, in terms of processes. And as well as that, then there's all the various stakeholders that we have to deal with as well. So if there's one thing that the digital transformation has brought to that is transparency and a collaborative approach. Probably Crystal could probably concur with me here, but probably 20 to 25 years ago, there wasn't that technology there. And, what you were doing on site there, you had a resident engineer standing over you as you measured a borehole or you measured a diameter of a bore, double checking things. That's no longer required these days. With the digital transformation that we have adopted as a business, we can offer the stakeholders, the PQSs, the main contractors, or the consulting engineers, our login details of our plant and equipment, so they can dial in actually real time. What that offers in terms of tangible, to answer your question, is relationship building, it's transparency, it's trust, that they can see the process actually happening. We're able to harvest up and collect an incredible amount of data, analyze that, store that information, for future reference as well. So in terms of something tangible, I would say definitely it offers transparency and collaboration, which is absolutely, a must when you're trying to actually, you're in contact with people and trying to work well together.
Absolutely. Pick up that transparency and trust as, again, the fundamentals to support the collaboration and a better way of delivering projects together as teams. So really powerful, really powerful stuff. Thank you, Mark. And Sean, if I can come to you, on any journey, particularly long journeys, it's important to have a sense of the destination. And with the benefits of overview and comparators to the 20 plus industries, I think you said that you work across, do you have a view of what a full digital transformation might look like for construction? Is there anything that's you can bring to that destination?
Yeah, sure. Well, as you say, we have expertise and experience in a lot of sectors, and we've seen digitalization journeys, if you like, across some of them. Some of them have been there for 40, 50 years, others maybe in the last 10 or 15 years. I often think that construction is a bit like healthcare was about 10 or 15 years ago. Okay. Some very sophisticated equipment, very knowledgeable people, very highly trained, highly skilled, educated people. But just, searching around for a way into it and trying to find some key to unlock it. And we believe that standardization, of course, is in general is very important, but the GS1 standards we think can help a lot. And I suppose, like a poor debater, sometimes I go back and say, well, what do we mean by digitalization? And that's probably a philosophical question, not for today, but we would all have opinions on what it's not. And I think software applications is not digitalization, or sophisticated equipment, or high-tech but narrowly focused tools. All of those, of course, play their part, and some of the stuff Mark described is just out of this world. And every time I go to a trade show and see what's there, it's just incredible. But what's maybe missing is the glue that pulls it together. And I think somebody asked on the chat about proprietary standard systems. And that's what we see a lot in construction, that the software company decides what the identification system is. And if you want to maintain that through the lifestyle or the lifetime of the project, you need to buy into the software application and the set of tools that they provide. But I think digitalization really is about being digital from the start, from the ground up, from initial design. So you need the common language, the common data environment, as Mark described, interoperable systems of identification that are globally unique. So not just the project or that particular building or even the campus, but worldwide, that they need to be open, independent, and non-proprietary. Because as Patrick says, we're all working together in teams on projects, and the team on the next project is different. So by having that independent, non-proprietary system, you can go from project to project and use the same applications, the same identifiers, the same structure. And this has to remain in place throughout the life of the building to eventual repurposing or recycling. So the circularity, the Green Deal and all of that comes into play. So we're talking about very long time spans, and you need to be able to access that data at the end or throughout the life of the building, really, for facilities management and so on, but also at the end of its life when you need to start reusing the materials. So you need to know what's in it. So that could be 60, 70 or more years time. So you need something that's going to be in place that long, and you'd have to question whether software companies in their current guise are going to still be around, or whether they're going to have cared about the data in between when, you know, companies get taken over and merged and so on. So there's no doubt that the construction sector is on a digital journey, no matter how we define it, and we can see that now with increasing use of BIM and those tools. The CEN and ISO standards are being published to support that. So a lot of the building blocks are in place. And we believe in GS1 that we can bring our standards in there as well to help with the identification part. And we're seeing that happening in other countries, which is also what we can leverage as an international organization. So in Scandinavia, for instance, Australia, China, Germany, France, and Switzerland in particular. And in Norway, Sweden, and Finland, the industry has decided to use the GS1 identifiers for all products used in public procurement. And GS1 RFID is widely used in healthcare and rail. And there are some very interesting pilot projects in construction as well. And then GS1 and Building Smart International are working together to ensure that our standards for identification complement their standards for exchange of data through IFC files and so on. So a lot to learn from other sectors. In Ireland, we're working with some of our members and our platinum partner, IFS, who are here today, to show how the standards can be used to identify and track maintainable assets from manufacture all the way through to repurposing or recycling. Many of our members have capital projects that they want us to try to use the same identifiers that they use in their core operations in the construction phases and in facilities management. That's why some of our best use cases are in facility management and building operations, because that's where people can see an appreciable benefit. And the illustration that we had earlier shows kind of a typical plant room, if you like, and the benefits that could be used or could be attained from using GS1 standards. So you're able to uniquely identify your assets, you're able to track their history, you're able to, as Patrick was saying, you can cooperate with the manufacturers and tell them what's working, what's wearing out fast, and what's not, and when you need to replace parts and so on. So it's that as the so-called golden thread of information that can flow through the life cycle of the building. So I suppose that's the vision, if you like, for digitalization of construction, is that end-to-end, cradle to cradle, as we say, where it's digital all the way through, that there's no paper being exchanged, everything is machine readable, it's all unique, it's not proprietary. You can go from one project to the next using the system of identification. You don't have to reinvent it for the next project.
Indeed, Sean, a fabulous vision, and just to pick up on one of the points you made, which is, you know, construction. Maybe traditionally, you know, we design, we construct, we build, and we walk away. But the importance, I think, of digital in terms of linking the asset into the operation and efficiency of the asset and how it runs. And then, you know, more recently, the refocus on sustainability and whole life costing of a building and an asset. And should it last for, you know, 100 years, 200 years, that should be factored in as well. And I absolutely agree. They're two of the changes. So when people say what's different, you know, what's different is that we're now designing and delivering in consideration of how that building will run, in terms of its energy use and how long it will last, and we're also thinking about embodied carbon and that whole life, you know, beyond the time it takes to design and build a project. We're now thinking 30-40 years, and I agree. I think that is really shaping the direction of travel, and that's why it's different, and that's why we're not going back. But these are all very sustainable. Not in necessarily green terms, but in terms of sustainable changes that are leading us to this path. So
I think there's almost a perfect storm, John, at the moment of regulation coming in, probably from the EU Green Deal, and I think in the UK, even though it's not in the EU anymore, there's still going to be pressure to conform with environmental concerns and so on, and constant monitoring of buildings, IoT and so on. And then there's obviously the recent tragedy in the UK, where there's obviously going to be some changes to the way things have to happen in terms of understanding what's in buildings and performance and so on.
Indeed, and I know, Patrick, this is an area that was very close to your heart. You know, you've been designing, delivering, and living with assets for a long time, and how efficient and how well they operate and how much maintenance they take has been being factored back into your design and delivery process over many years, and I suppose maybe one of the reasons that you started so early, and you had clients who could see this, and clients that could see the value that this would bring beyond the design and construction phase. Is that something you'd concur with?
Absolutely. And like, it's even, I suppose, our asset management business is over 22 years old now, and it's a pity we didn't understand scanning and QR codes and stuff, and had affixed the information on the products we installed 15 years ago. We're having to go back now and fit the labeling on them so that we can communicate it, you know. But it's an area where we've got to explore a lot more yet in terms of how best we roll it out for our asset management teams. When we build a plant and we hand it over to a client, you give them a digital asset, you know, the old format of a full shelf full of O&M manuals, that's gone. It's a model. It's all in there. Like, the ideal one for me is where, when we're building a treatment plant for a customer, you go through all the design process, all of the pumps, the components, the valves that we procure from our supply chain. When that comes into our factory for assembly onto our assemblies, it's already barcoded or labeled. It's scanned automatically. Everyone involved in the project that needs to know gets an email, that component has arrived. It's then fed through the process, goes to site, gets installed. We trialed it with MWH in Inverary. It was the first time ever we basically commissioned the treatment plant in BIM 360 field. That's something now we'd like to do with every plant. And then you have a model at the end of it that you give the client. So there's full traceability. The operators afterward, halo lenses and all that, they can just walk into a plant room or a control room or onto a platform, scan a pump, a mixer, a valve, or whatever, and all the data pops up in terms of where it was bought, when, who commissioned it, when it was fitted, how do I get a new one, where do I get the replacement part. It all happens automatically, you know. And even, you know, Mark's comment there with the QR code for health and safety for the catch it cards that we'd use manually. Well, reordering reagents or reordering a spare part for a particular piece of kit can all be done there by the operator before they even move on to the next piece of kit. And then obviously when you move to the next level is, how do you automate that with AI so that the operator doesn't have to do it in the first place? It happens for him. So that's the future, and that's why I would say we're only at 5.5 out of 10 because there's so much more to go after in terms of like even the process of spending 12 to 15 weeks remotely in the teams as we did designing that treatment plant. I would ask the question, we've built so many of these treatment plants with all of the technology, why can't we just design one of these in 2 weeks, put in the inputs, give it the parameters, and it pops you out a design. It has taken all the learnings from the 50 workshops that have held already in the previous 2 years, and it's a bit more intelligent, and it just spits you out a design and a cost, and you tweak that, and it's done. That's where you need to get to.
Yeah, I think that's where we're going.
And that's why I say there's so much more to go.
Absolutely. And Mark, maybe the last word from you on the panel discussion, in terms of a vision, or just even a word about the future in terms of piling and specialist contracting. Are we far away from driverless piling rigs and robots?
I would never say never, John. Who knows what the future holds? I like quoting a particular author, a guy called John Wooden, and I was flicking through his book there today, and I just thought like this particular quote was rather apt for this discussion, and it's about always progressing, where he says you must never stand still. You're either moving upward a little bit or you're going the other way. You can't expect to go upward too quickly, but you can sure go down very quickly. That's the thing. And it probably a bit like what Patrick is saying, you basically can't stand still. You always have to be looking at the next thing. And we as human beings, we're probably in our comfort zones a lot of time, and a lot of us don't like, it's just human nature, we don't like being outside our comfort zone. But we gotta put ourselves out of our comfort zone to be able to progress, and it's about continuous improvement, and it's about making mistakes and learning from those mistakes that we're only really going to be able to progress in whatever route we go down here.
Absolutely, Mark. Now, that's a great note to conclude our panel conversation on, and thank you for that, and thank you each for your fantastic insights and for sharing those experiences. Hopefully we'll get a bit of chance for some Q&A. I can see that the chat's pretty much lit up while we've been talking, so a number of areas to touch upon. Before what we're going to do is digitally transport everybody into a breakout room. But before we do that, we're gonna run a little poll, just to get a sense of really what's driving your own digital transformations. So there we have it, digital transformation motives. What is the principal force driving digital transformation in your business? So we'll do that as a live poll. If you want to have a think about those 5 options, and maybe that will give a little bit of context to the conversations that we'll only have for sort of 15-20 minutes in the breakout rooms. But let me do it as well. So let's give you a few more seconds to fill that in. So when we
how fast people are at their digital.
Are the results in?
We have 76% have taken the survey. I can close the poll now if you like. All right. There we are.
Okay, so a pretty even stretch there, but clearly client market demand and senior management business strategy is are fairly closely connected, I would imagine. But excellent, and no others. That's always good. Whoever designed the poll, they've covered all the options there. So look, thank you very much. Again, thank you to our panel, and Eugene, maybe I'll hand over to you just to set up the kind of the conversations in the breakout rooms.
Okay, thanks, John. Just before I do that, we always like to give a shout out to our new members. So we have 3 new members on the event this evening: Ross Motion of MJM Joinery, Ross Quayle of Be Positive, and Breda McHugh of Comely Plus. So welcome to them, and I hope they're enjoying the event. At Causeway, we believe it's good to talk, even in our online world, and the breakout rooms are really very much an opportunity to meet people and have a discussion. So through a sort of random selection, you'll be automatically assigned to a breakout room and give a brief introduction, and then let's cover some of the topics that our speakers have already covered. Okay, Aoife, over to you.
Okay, I'll open the breakout rooms now.
So welcome back, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the breakout session. A rare chance to socialize ideas and experiences that obviously so much harder to do at the current time. And I suppose to the findings of our group sessions, and just looking back, the themes from the panel were very much around sustaining momentum, around tangible benefits and vision. And the poll touched upon the drivers of digital transformation. So, you know, which of these did your groups pick up on? And I'll ask each of the group moderators perhaps just to summarize their conversations. So, Nick, perhaps we can kick things off with you. How did you get on?
So our group was, I think, fairly unique for this type of event. It was a lot of software solutions and work management systems and simulators and things like that. So some of the questions that we'd thought about as a working group didn't really apply. So we thought, let's look at you know, how can your solutions or where do you see the real benefits being in terms of the work? And we were looking at you know, the big areas being legal, audit trail, transparency, sustainability and compliance, are all subjects that were touched upon by the panel, and using gaming technology in simulators to, you know, scenario plan. How would we react if a situation happened on site, so that you can, you know, improve on safety, you know, because if you can predict what the behaviors should be before something goes wrong, and make sure that you sort it out the right way, it's improved safety, there's less litigation, all of these sorts of things. So that was all really interesting. And then, you know, tangible benefits, we talked about creating assets with more value, data and information being available in real time, analytics and information providing improved efficiency. You know, there was one example of you know, managing timesheets. You know, could have taken a week across a whole site, and there would be errors and missed bits of information, and, you know, to get the guys paid was a bit of a nightmare. But now, you know, you're processing data in a few seconds, few minutes, with fewer errors, and it's just driving efficiency. So yeah, it was really process efficiency, transparency, trust were the things that we talked about.
Excellent. And Saffron, perhaps we can move to you, and any experiences, insights you'd like to share with the group.
Yeah, so in a nutshell, I think the key things about sustainability was that you need to be ready to go on the journey. The whole procurement side of it needs to be thought about. You know, you can't just forget about that. And looking at the whole project life cycle rather than looking at parts of it in isolation. So the main benefits were that people have been seeing as the improved customer journey, data-led decision making, and Andrew came up with a really good term, which I'm going to be borrowing, Andrew, is better stakeholder environment, which I think just, you know, encapsulates how the experience for every party can be improved, because you've got clarity, transparency, everything can flow much more easily.
Oh, excellent. And maybe Chris, have you got something to share with us?
Yeah, well, I think we had about half experienced, or a lot of experienced people in our group, but we also had someone who's in the very start of the journey who doesn't know where to start, and excuse me, and I think the whole thing was just about starting small and being able to scale up. The advantages of digital is the fact that you can scale up, and if you get the right support at the right time, now's a good time to be going on that journey. Just the ways that we've changed the working on in terms of health and safety consultancy. We've really, you know, looking at how do we manage health and safety on site. It's obviously we touched on that as well. Great benefits that digital technologies are bringing, and also, you know, the different cross sectors, learning from the telecoms industry, which, you know, seems to be on a longer journey on this, and you know, being able to learn from each other, having these environments that we're having this digital meeting today from all corners of Ireland and Britain, so it's great. So yeah, really, there's just a lot of, and how it can empower technicians, and you know, and just a lot of benefits to it, and yeah, and a lot of support available. That's the other thing, to support people, and that Causeway is one of the things you can do. Hope we can help people to support them on their digital journey, and it's just been great. The inputs we've had from the panelists today as well. I think it's really helped everyone. So yeah.
Thank you, Chris. And perhaps just before we move to George, if there's anybody in the online who's got a burning question, there might be a short opportunity to raise it to any of the panelists or to any of the group or anyone who's on this meeting. We might have a very short period of time, so if there's a burning question, maybe think about honing that now. But George, how did you get on with your group? How was the main theme?
You're on mute, George.
He knew.
Sorry, guys. I was eager to get those answers in very quickly. No, I had a great group, John. Really good conversation. Great breakout session. I think some of the stuff that we were talking about was really interesting, and we got some really good enlightened views from the three speakers that we all agreed on was really important. But the whole digital transformation in our industry, we all agreed, is so important. It's going to help us improve as an industry, and also make it to ensure that we work better collaboratively. One of the areas that we focused on was procurement and setting up the right processes, and that's so important. It's how an owner operator gets to ensure that he's aware of these processes and how it's selected properly, how it's procured properly, how it's costed for property as well. So we're all aware of the margins that we exist within this industry. And it's to ensure that the advantages over the margins are much more important, so it becomes a lot more sustainable. Also, another good key point was the talent that exists in our industry of young companies and smaller companies and big companies who have great talent on board and are looking to develop the applications that they're developing in this whole digital transformation is really exciting. We've got some great cities who have got great talent within the Causeway network, and it's encouraging to see that those companies are coming on board, developing applications in different areas in the whole construction FM space. So it's supporting those companies and helping those companies get out further into different regions, so important as well. Sustainability and project life cycle came up a couple of times. Wouldn't it be great to be able to track and trace those building components all the way through the construction process, and to be able to understand what happens at each individual stage, like what Patrick and Sean were saying. Interoperability and traceability of information is going to be a driving force now for us moving forward as companies within the construction and FM space. It's to ensure that items are properly identified right from the factory, right till it comes back into the design and construction and onto operations. And if we can get that moving, that could be a game changer.
Yeah, no, thank you, George. And again, procurement coming up. You know, how do we get away from lowest price procurement and trust visibility, that stakeholder environment is going to be absolutely key, isn't it? And just for everyone on the call, for the avoidance of any doubt, George isn't standing in front of two rugby posts. Okay, this is,
that was the Ireland soccer team there, Paul. The ball in the back of the net for some reason.
That's a fantastic backdrop. It really is. and from George to Eugene. Eugene, you how was your group discussion?
Yeah, we have very much a meeting of minds with the term feel your pain sort of came through on a couple of occasions. I think one of the big elements was standardization. There's a sort of strong sense that, you know, you're choosing a platform, and it was a little bit like betting on a horse. And really, is that a good way for us to be developing our sort of digital business strategy? Frustration with the sort of tier one sort of level contractors, their variety of accreditation requirements and variety of software requirements. So some of the challenges were the need for a digital champion in your organization. The pace of the construction industry, we're sort of slow to move and slow to embrace change. And I think that is an issue for the industry in this context. Tangible benefits, transparency, collaboration, better information, and quality outcome.
Fantastic. Thank you very much indeed. And Gina, last but by no means least, did you have some concurrent themes with the group? How did you get on?
We did, absolutely, and we had a mix within our group of software providers and also multinational experience and consultants working with SMEs. So a good mix, various positions of progress within different companies. But the key milestones would have been the introduction of cloud and solutions and what that's done for data. Contractual obligations. So for example, when government contracts made it a contractual obligation on BIM, that provided some momentum. And then also hearts and minds leadership, where that sits within the organization, and how, if it's led from top down, there's going to be so much more traction, and the complexity of that with individual companies and driving collaborations across complex projects and complex networks on the tangible benefits. And again, that's very rich in that, and we've heard previously, similarly, real-time data, going from timesheets and prehistoric means and methods to real-time informed decisions, the efficiencies that brings, and the speed, the collaboration, and breaking down silos. So I think that's really being reiterated in the other groupings.
Fantastic. Yeah. Lots, you know, we reflect across all the groups. Yeah, a lot of recurring themes in terms of the people, the procurement, the leadership, the drivers, and yeah, I'd suggest we've necessarily got all the answers, but I think particularly around procurement, there's some really big drivers and a movement away from lowest price, and you know, I've been looking at digital technology in construction for about 10 years, and if we look over a decade, we've made significant progress, albeit at a rate that probably seems fairly slow, but for sure it's only going to speed up, and you know, people will ultimately, you know, get with it, and I think, and as the younger people become the leaders, you know, that's only going to accelerate things further as well. But thank you all. I appreciate we're running a little bit over, so if anyone has got any questions, please pop them in the chat, and maybe we can come back to those later or at a subsequent time. Eugene, perhaps I can hand over to you. I think you've got a final poll for us to engage with. But thank you all. Thank you to our group moderators, and thanks again to our panel.
Yeah, Aoife, do you want to just run that poll? So just while we're running that, thanks to our hosts, Nick and John, and thank you to our speakers, Patrick, Mark and Sean. If you have enjoyed this event, please become a member. You can do this just through our website. It means you'll be the first to hear about things. Other events that Causeway are running, and we have one on Spotlight on Startups and Entrepreneurs on the 25th of February, and one on Empowering Future Generations of Women Leaders on the 4th of March. The results of the poll are in, so that's pretty decisive stuff there. So the senior leaders are up for it. The question is everybody else? Thank you for the poll. This is the first of 4 events, and our next event in the series is on the 22nd of April, and that's on digital leadership. And just as a final, is thanks again to Invest NI for their support of these events. And have a good evening, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Great,
Thanks
thanks
everyone.
Thanks for
Thank
coming.
you.